Hi again. An Islamic State sympathizer has been charged in the United States for trying to plant a bomb at a public beach in Florida. Harlem Suarez has been on the FBI's radar for several months. The authorities were first alerted in April when he began posting extremist comments and pro-ISIL messages on Facebook. In May, Suarez made an ISIL recruitment video where he said that Islamic State will raise its black flag on top of the White House. Maria Fanoshina looks at what's driving young men and women to become so radicalized.
One of the world's most notorious and brutal terror organizations, Islamic State still manages to find support all over the globe. No one can say for sure how many have joined its ranks, but they come from a diversity of states. America, waging war against the group, is also on the list of donor countries. Hoda, an Alabama student, gave up her American life and colorful dresses to become the devoted wife of a jihadist fighter in Syria.
I'm not going to come back. This is the right place for me to live, and I'm really ready to die, to meet my God as a true Muslim.
Islamic State's ideology reached her through social networks, and that's what she used to disseminate her message too. Her Twitter account has now been suspended. In the Islamic center where Hoda used to come for prayers and Quran studies, life goes on as normal, but there is serious concern.
Their biggest victims are Muslims, Sunni Muslims. You know, they do also say that they fight for Sunni Islam, but their biggest victims are Sunni Muslims themselves.
Hoda's father, a very religious Yemeni refugee, he refused to be filmed, is still overcome with emotions.
I couldn't even stand on my feet. This was the last thing anyone can imagine about one of their beloved kids.
Research has found that defending Muslims, battling the Syrian regime and marrying a good Muslim are among the top motivations of those joining ISIS. Hoda from Alabama was apparently seeking a combination. A month after her arrival in Syria, she married a mujahid, or fighter, to become a widow just 80 days later.
I'm sure every family controls their kids like I do, but ISIS found somehow, some way to get through.
Alabama University in Birmingham, the 20-year-old started business here before she decided on a different calling, joining the army of ISIS brides in Syria. These walls, as well as her family and community, were incapable of protecting her mind, and she might be not the last.
ISIS propaganda is aggressive and therefore successful, says Joy from an American Christian non-profit organization. Their website was hacked by the extremist group, one of around 4,000 other internet services the same day, from sites for pizza deliveries to car washes.
There was a song, I'm assuming in Arabic, and the only words that I could really make out were jihad and infidels. They may seem like they're offering a way out, but really they're not.
Yet still, so many believe that they do. Maria Fanoshina, RT, Alabama, USA.
One of the things often cited as a reason for the radicalisation of Muslims is foreign involvement in the Islamic world. And in fact, there's been a lot of that in recent years. When you look at it, Syria, for instance, the 14th country in that part of the globe that American forces have invaded, occupied or bombed since 1980. And the list goes on too. It includes battles in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in Libya, as well as drone strikes in Pakistan and Yemen. International affairs analyst Con Hallinan spoke to us. He says it all eventually backfires.
American foreign policy sort of demands demons. It creates them. You know, for a long time it was communism, and then it's been terrorism. Now it's the Islamic State, because I think the creation of demons plays into what we tend to do better than anybody else, which is we can blow things up. Some of those consequences are going to play out at home. That's why it's a good idea not to engage in a lot of wars, because eventually there are blowbacks and casualties among civilians.
Muslims abroad may be upset with America's numerous interventions, but the Islamic community inside the US also has reason to be unhappy too. Here are some of the prominent Muslim American leaders who've been monitored by the FBI and National Security Agency. All are either civil rights activists, academics or lawyers, and one's in fact a political candidate. The stated aim of the monitoring was to target terrorists and foreign spies. As well as targeting Muslims for surveillance on home soil, local US authorities are relying radical European politicians to speak at anti-Islamic events too.
Don't mess with the free West and don't mess with our freedom of speech.
There's a familiar face to some. That's far-right Dutch politician Geert Wilders talking just before the Texas shootings in May, when two gunmen opened fire during a Draw the Prophet Muhammad contest, something of course considered blasphemous in Islam. But while things heat up at home, the US government still wants to root out terror abroad, something Colin Hannon again describes as plain stupid.
The idea of that you're going to get rid of terrorism by bombing it out of existence, it's never been done. The Islamic Front came out of the invasion of Iraq. The Americans can take credit for the creation of the Islamic State. This is the dumbest set of things that I have seen American foreign policy creators do in a long time. I mean, this is right up there with the invasion of Iraq, and the consequences may end up being worse.
Meanwhile, Russian Muslim women are apparently coming up with their own way of stopping the spread of ISIL by extorting jihadi cash. I spoke about this earlier with RT's Medina Konchino. She's got the story.
A number of girls have appeared on the police's radar in the Russian Republic of Chechnya. Now, what happened was that all of these girls were allegedly contacted via social networks by people who claimed to be Islamic State fighters. Now, those people asked the girl if they wanted to start a new life, if they wanted to join them.
He was first tempting me, saying, "Don't you want to come to Syria? It's really good here." I replied, "I don't have the means." And so he offered to wire some money.
Well, in reality, it was all just a trick. Now, as soon as the money was transferred, the account was shut down and all contact was lost.
And none of these girls actually went abroad to find new love, new life with their new beau, did they?
Oh, not at all. Not a single one of these girls were actually serious about leaving.
Many of the people I know have left, but nothing good came of it.
Now, let me tell you how the process works. Now, it takes time, and it is divided into several stages. Of course, a girl should establish a solid contact, and then she, after a short while, she starts sending out pictures, sometimes not of herself, but showing face, and that sends a signal to the contact that the stakes are high now, so he offers his financial support.
And there's never heard of again.
Never, never. Actually, all these girls now under a police investigation in Chechnya. But there is another thing here, another detail, is that sometimes even men create these fake accounts. So they're using these fake identities to extort money as well.
Let's go around the world, take a look at some more world news headlines. Israeli settlers and security forces have clashed in the West Bank. Scuffles broke out on Tuesday over the demolition of houses built there without permission. An appeal by the settlers was rejected earlier by the Israeli Supreme Court. The military's declared the area a closed military zone now, and they've removed the protesters. A residential building's collapsed in India. It's killed at least 9 people. That accident's blamed on heavy rain that hit the area on Tuesday. The 3-story building containing 27 flats is said to have been issued eviction notices in the past and to have been deemed unsafe. 11 residents were rescued. You may remember how last autumn Sweden was desperately searching for that foreign submarine in its waters. Well, divers have now discovered a sunken sub just off the coast. The video they filmed shows that it's almost perfectly intact, in fact, and yet, look, Cyrillic writing on it. Immediately led then many people to assume that the vessel was Russian. The discovery immediately reminded people of that October sub hunt. The alleged sighting of a craft back then, you may recall, sent the Swedish Navy into overdrive, what became its largest military effort since the Cold War. The operation was thought to have cost around $3 million, but no Russian sub was ever found, and that search wrapped up within a week. As for what prompted that search, the internet community at the time offered their own theories, ranging everything from maybe the Russian president taking a dive to the Loch Ness Monster migrating a little, but no, back to date. Could this newly found submarine that sunk with Cyrillic writing on it be the one that got away is the big question from the Swedish military last October. Well, it seems not. Apparently this one's been underwater for quite a while. maybe for more than a century, quite a while, because the letter spotted on it hasn't been used in the Russian language since the 1917 revolution, at least. Sweden's armed forces did later confirm that this latest vessel was a Tsarist-era Russian submarine sunk during the First World War. Peace campaigner Jan Oberg explained why so many there were still so eager to always point the finger at Russia.
It's happening because there is this attitude in the Swedish media, the tabloid press, the yellow press, as well as more serious media, that, you know, everything is about Russia today. And they cannot write anything critical about the United States or NATO or anything like that. They simply cannot do that. We have people who are obsessed with the Russian threat in this country, and it's just very sad because it has nothing to do with journalism.
Even with China currently going through some economic difficulties, it looks to be on course still to be the world's biggest economy in the next decade. The Crosstalk show then after the break with Peter considers what the future could be like with Beijing on top.